What's up, guys? How are you? Welcome into week 5. It is time for early bets, early prediction, live movement, survivor plays, and more. He is Pat Fitzmaurice. I'm Matt Perrault, and we get to look at the first week in the NFL with buys. Pat, it's a smaller schedule than what we're used to seeing, but how are you on this Tuesday as we look forward to what things happening Thursday and Sunday?
Yeah, doing well, Matt. The Broncos helped ensure that I wasn't going to have a losing week. Close to a losing week, but the Broncos kind of saved me last night. So feeling good going into week 5. Yeah, shorter slate. The buys already, man. Seems like the season just started, and here we are in week 5, bye weeks.
Yeah, last night saved me too. Monday night, I had the over in the first game, and then I had the Broncos big and took J.K. Dobbins over, laddered it a little bit for his rushing total. So that was a nice little pick-me-up after a pretty bad Sunday for me. So I was excited about what happened there. I don't know how the Lions game didn't go over for us. I just don't I don't get it. We talked about it on Sunday. It fell 44. I laid 44 and a half. And we got hooked on that total. So I don't understand how we lost that, but that's fine. That's gambling, and we move on here to what we're going to see today or in this week. Let's start with Thursday, because that's one of the games that I would say you should fire on right now. It is a divisional game. It is the Rams against a banged-up 49ers team. Nick Bosa is gone. The quarterback situation is very much in flux as to whether Brock Purdy will play in this game or not. Pat, I think you lay the 5.5 right now and don't wait for this to go to 6 or 7 or higher with the Rams as the limits open up. But do you think the Niners have a shot at keeping this game close?
Boy, they got one pressure last week on Trevor Lawrence. One pressure. And now they don't have Nick Bosa for the entire season. Like that's a problem. Give Matthew Stafford time and he will pick you apart. And also the fact that, Brock Purdy just did not look himself. Like arm strength, doesn't really have a rocket arm to begin with. And it seemed like he had a little less juice, like something wasn't quite right. And we saw it on with at least one of the interceptions. So yeah, I'm a little concerned about the 49ers. I don't mind taking the Rams in this. The Rams, like they got a good game from the Colts and they prevailed, and they've taken the Eagles' best punch and, hung in that game and got unfortunate with a blocked kick at the end. So like the Rams are an absolute heavyweight, and I don't know if the 49ers were sort of on fraud watch after starting 3-0. Like I think they're kind of on the fraud list now after that home loss to the Jaguars.
It's just too many injuries. I don't know how you overcome the number of injuries they have sustained on offense and on defense. It's a short week. I know it's a quick travel. It's a quick flight, but it's still travel. It's still going to L.A. to take on a Rams team that was at home last week who, yes, Puka Nakua's thumb is a little bit of a question. We want to make sure that he's going to be in this game, and I do think he'll play. He came back after going to the locker room with the thumb and came back and played very well. But Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, this receiving core with Matthew Stafford and the offensive line for the Rams is not getting nearly enough pub as it should, because they're giving him tons of time, on top of the fact that they're running the ball extremely effectively at the moment. This is a Rams offense that, with Sean McVay, this right now early is my team to watch out for in the NFL, and it's a team I want to back. I backed him last week, laid the 3.5. Was that lucky? I mean, hang on to a football. Don't celebrate before you get to the end zone. Might have been a different game, but Rams win, Rams cover 27-20 after with a really long touchdown to win the game. I like the Rams here, and I think anything less than a touchdown is a good play here for the Rams, just because the Niners are really up against it. And frankly, other than Christian McCaffrey, who I get it is Christian McCaffrey, but who are you really afraid of right now on this offense for the 49ers? I mean, I know they'll get better, they'll get healthy down the line, but right now, are you afraid of the offense at all?
No George Kittle. It seriously doesn't seem like Ricky Pearsall is going to play. Like he's got some sort of knee issue. Said he felt instability in the knee. That does not suggest he's going to do a quick turnaround and play on Thursday night. So there's really no one. I mean, they're down to Juwan Jennings as their only real credible pass catcher right now.
And he took a shot.
And he's been banged up all season. Yeah.
He took a shot to the ribs that I think any boxer cringed and went, oh, man, that's got to hurt in the morning. So you don't like playing receiver with bruised ribs. So, and that's what he's playing with. So just a lot of problems up and down that roster right now for San Francisco. So Thursday night game, I think you'd go ahead and jump on it early, take the 5.5. And I know there's been some movement here today going to the dog on the Niners. I think if you can get 5, grab it. 5.5, grab it. All right, to one of your plays, Pat, and it's the Vikings on the road again overseas. They become the first team in NFL history to play 2 games in 2 weeks in 2 different countries. They played against in Ireland. It took them a half to wake up. First half, they were asleep. Second half, they woke up, which seems to be a trend right now, by the way. If you're watching the Viking games, it feels like the defensive intensity at halftime, whatever is being said by Brian Flores at halftime, is waking up the defense, because they did it against the Bears and now they did it against the Steelers, but it wasn't enough. They were down. The mountain was too high for them to climb. 24-21 was the final. Now the Vikings are on the road to the Browns. What do you make of this? A team staying in Europe, is that a big benefit in your mind for a team like the Browns coming off of a loss to the Lions where they're traveling over to Tottenham?
Yeah, I do think the travel narrative favors the Vikings here. Having played in Ireland last Sunday, they're staying in Europe for this London game. Just make the very short trip to get to London. And the Vikings' circadian rhythms have probably adjusted to European time by now. The Browns flying over this week, advantage Vikings. And as far as last week, like, I do think the Vikings took a well-deserved loss. They were outplayed pretty thoroughly in that first half. We also saw the Vikings get thoroughly outplayed by the Falcons in week 2, and they responded by absolutely crushing the Bengals in week 3. And obviously the Bengals have their problems. And the Browns are certainly a better team than the Bengals. And who would have thought we'd be confidently saying that less than a month into the season? But well-coached teams tend not to play 2 bad games in a row. And the Vikings are a very well-coached team with Kevin O'Connell at the helm and Brian Flores running the defense. Joe Flacco is just toast. Like, he had kind of a fun let it rip style when he had stints as a starter the last couple of years, but that late career pizzazz is just gone at age 40. Like, Flacco can't handle the pressure at all. And the Brian Flores defense is going to throw all sorts of pressure at him in unexpected ways. I think the Browns are going to struggle to score in this one. And while Carson Wentz isn't really that great a quarterback either, at least he has playmakers. Like, Justin Jefferson is great. Jordan Addison is very good, had over 100 yards in his first game back from suspension last week. I think the Vikings roll pretty easily in this one.
I agree. I don't know what's going on with the quarterback spot for the Browns. I think if I am a Cleveland Browns fan, I would like to see somebody else besides Joe Flacco play quarterback. And I would like to see them at least develop a young quarterback and say, look, this is a lost season anyway. Why are we playing an aging veteran? It doesn't make any sense. So I think you're right about the travel. And I think this offense for Cleveland just isn't really all that good. And I think the Vikings should be able to put up better numbers and not have the turnovers you would hope that happened last week in the first half that really derailed that offense for the Vikings and put them in that hole to the Steelers. So don't turn the football over. I think the Vikings win, and the Vikings will cover that 3.5 points. I don't know how many points the Cleveland Browns actually score. So I'm with you on the Vikings. This next play we both are on, and that is Tampa Bay and Seattle. This number is 3 and climbing. This is why we do this show, because the key number of 3 is what you want, not 3.5 at the time of taping. Most books are at 3. Some have moved to 3.5 for Seattle. Opening number was 1.5. Tampa Bay is really, really banged up, and now they're going across the country to take on a Seahawks team that at home is very, very difficult. I like Seattle. You like Seattle. Why are we all in on the Seahawks, Pat?
I don't think people realize just how good this Seattle defense is, Matt. Like, the Seahawks rank number 1 in defensive DVOA. They're number 2 against the pass, number 3 against the run. They have the 4th best opponent passer rating. They have the 6th most sacks. They've given up the 6th fewest rushing yards, and there's only been 1 run of 20 yards or more against them all season. Their defensive backfield, one of the best in the league. Buccaneers are down a couple of starting offensive linemen, and running back Bucky Irving is dealing with some sort of foot issue. They don't have Mike Evans. Baker Mayfield is a magician. I always worry about betting against Baker as a dog, but Baker's also gotten a little lucky this season. He's had several interception-worthy throws that were not intercepted. Like, you cannot make those sorts of mistakes against the Seattle defense. They will make you pay. I believe they have 7 interceptions already on the season. I think the Seahawks win this one pretty convincingly at home against a visiting Buccaneers team. More travel narrative here, Matt, making about the longest possible road trip you can make in the NFL, going from Florida to the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. Yesterday at the press conference on Monday, Todd Bowles was asked about injuries, and he said, "There's so many players getting MRIs. I don't know how many I have to tell you about." Like, he couldn't even mention the number of players. It was so high getting MRIs. This is a really, really banged up football team that is, as you mentioned, they won 3 games on last second drives. That's somewhat fortuitous here in the fourth quarter in the NFL to come and win games like the way the Bucs have won. And I love the Bucs. Don't get me wrong. When healthy, the Bucs, I think, they're the best team in the division, but they're not healthy. They don't have Mike Evans. They, as you mentioned, 2 offensive line. They got Tristan Wirfs back, but they still gave up tons of pressure to Baker against the Eagles last week. Bucky Irvin's injury concerns me because he's been that one big weapon. He had a big play, big touchdown run or catch rather against the Eagles. I'm with you. I don't think this is a good spot. I'm not saying teams punt in the NFL, but over 17 weeks, if you're Tampa Bay losing at Seattle, there's no real, harm in it. It's a hard place to play. It's a hard trip, and you're going to be up against it without having a vast majority of your players that you would want to have this. If it was a playoff game, I might think differently. You're right about Baker Mayfield's record as a dog. He's tremendous as a dog, awful as a favorite, great as a dog. Yep. Look what happened last week against the Eagles. But I don't think this is a good spot. I think this is one of those come back down to earth moments. I'm with you on Seattle to get a big win here against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Guys, track your bets, stay accountable, and level up by downloading the BettingPros app with Sportsbook Sync. Automatically track your bets across all major sportsbooks in one spot. Easily monitor your bet performance by sport and bet type, including game, picks, props, and parlays. Create custom betting systems to find winning trends and profitable opportunities. New users can get 6 months of BettingPros Premium for free with your first deposit and wager at one of our partner sportsbooks. Learn more by going to bettingpros.com/premium. All right, your third play here, Pat, and I am really interested to hear your take on this because my Patriots are playing in primetime up against the Buffalo Bills. And Drake May, if he throws for 2 touchdowns and completes 75% of his passes against Buffalo's defense, I will be floored. And not only will I be floored, that will also tie the NFL record for the most consecutive games with that stat line, tying the one and the only Tom Brady, who did it in 2007 with the Patriots. I don't see that type of performance here, but you like the Pats plus 8.5. Tell me why.
I do. And I do think Drake May can move the ball against the Bills, and you can absolutely run on the Bills. They rank 30th in DVOA against the run. Like, their run defense is just bad right now. And Matt, you know how the Chiefs kind of, when they were at the height of their powers in the AFC just a few short years ago, they had this way of not covering against lesser teams as big favorites, especially at home. And I think we're starting to see sort of the same phenomenon with the Bills. Like, we have seen them play with their food in each of the last 2 weeks. They had a scare thrown into them by the Dolphins in a Thursday night home game in week 3. Didn't cover. They were big home favorites against the Saints in week 4. Let the Saints hang around well into the second half. Didn't cover. Now for a third straight week, the Bills are big home favorites, but this time against a pretty plucky divisional rival that's 2-2 and really should be 3-1 had they not committed a bunch of costly turnovers in what should have been an easy win over the Steelers. Yeah, I'm totally sold on Drake May, Matt. Like, I think he is already one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the league, and it might be in the, on the Josh Allen tier before too long here. It's whether the Patriots can get enough stops against this Bills offense. And, the Patriots have been pretty decent against the run so far. So I'm looking forward to this game. I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people are expecting.
Yeah, the Superman cape for Josh Allen worries me. And I've seen it before, and this is where in prime time Josh Allen is the best player on the field, and the Patriots can't stop him running or passing, and it opens up all sorts of weapons down the field because they're so worried about Josh Allen's scrambling, scrambling ability. This is a big game for the Patriots because they have gone to Buffalo before and they have shocked the Bills before. And they've had opportunities to beat the Bills in Buffalo recently that really changed the course of a season. And they've made one or two mistakes that just didn't work out. 8.5, 7.5. I think anything over 7. I wouldn't bet 7 or less, but I think 7.5 or higher, I think is a good number to jump in with the Patriots. And I'm also going to be watching what happens. You mentioned the running game. So the Patriots right now have 3 good running backs, but Trayvon Henderson's the only one who hasn't fumbled. So Gibson's fumbled, Stevenson has fumbled, but last week on Sunday, they took care of the football. Now you can say that's against the Panthers, but you're supposed to do that against bad football teams. You're supposed to take them behind the woodshed and blow their doors off. The Patriots defense looked great, but here's the one hook that I think could really benefit you. And we'll see what the Bills look like. I watched the Saints game. The Patriots have 2 special teams touchdowns so far this year. They have a kick return for a touchdown against Miami and a punt return against the Panthers. They are scoring in that third kind of secret. We don't talk about special teams all that much. We talk about offense and defense, but they have weapons right now in the return game that I think could really help Drake May in this offense with short fields against Buffalo. So if that trend continues and the Patriots special teams continues to be a big story for them, I'm right there with you. If it's not, I'm concerned about that number.
Yeah.
I'm concerned the Patriots turn the ball over and it turns into a 32, a 30-17 type victory.
And
for the Bills.
by the way, Bills run defense giving up 6 yards a carry right now, and even 6 yards per carry.
Sounds like a Ramondre Stevenson game.
It
That
could
sounds
be.
like load him up and let him run and see if he can finally get himself going and not fumble the football. Like, Patriot fans, he's not Derrick Henry, but he does have that propensity to run through defenses. And Derrick Henry lit up this Buffalo Bills defense in week number 1.
Yes, sir.
So they're not the same, but Stevenson's a big, powerful back who, once he gets into the open field, you don't want to tackle him. So if he's rolling, I think you're right. The Patriots might have a shot right at the end to win the game, let alone cover the spread. Patriots might be there to win the game. And that would be you want to announce your presence, Drake May, go to Buffalo and beat the Bills.
Yes.
Like go do that. That would be wild. For my final game for lock it in now number, I go to Monday night and the Chiefs up against Jacksonville. And look, I know there's been a lot of talk about the Chiefs on the road and what they look like versus at home, and they were at home against the Ravens, but that was a get right game for the Chiefs offense in my mind. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're flying high after a big win on the road against the 49ers. They come back, and I just think in prime time, I'm sorry. I'm not, again, I'm fading the Niners. There's a theme here. I'm fading the Niners. That's one of my plays. I don't like San Francisco, so I'm not in love with the Jacksonville Jaguars win last week. I'm not enamored by it, going like, oh my gosh, this team has figured it out with Liam Cohen as the coach. I just think the Chiefs are the better football team, and I don't want to lay more than 3 points. So I think Casey wins. By how much? I don't think it's much more than a field goal, but I don't want to get 3.5 or 4, Pat. I want to jump in and lay the 3 right now with Kansas City.
Yeah, I haven't decided if I'm going to play this one myself or not, Matt, but I would be inclined to play the Chiefs. I think we know the Jaguars can't really pass effectively, have not at all this season. And this quarterback matchup, Patrick Mahomes against Trevor Lawrence, seems like a pretty epic mismatch. The Jaguars defense, I can't figure out whether it's legitimate or whether they're just riding on good turnover luck. I know Josh Hines Allen, their edge rusher, is just a freak of nature. He is almost on the Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons type tier. Like he is just, he abused Trent Williams last week, just abused him. And, I know Trent Williams is older, but he's been a pretty good tackle, and Josh Hines Allen just picked his teeth with Trent Williams. So he could be a problem for the Chiefs, but they're getting a lot of turnovers. I don't know if that kind of good fortune sustains itself. So yeah, I let's hope it was a get right game for the Chiefs offense, and that what we saw against the Ravens was legit and not just the Chiefs picking on a really banged up defense.
The Ravens are 1-3.
Amazing.
1-3 for the Ravens. It really is something. Guys, today's show is being brought to you by Hard Rock Bet. The leaves are falling and the stakes are rising. As we know, talk football all the time here on Betting Pros, but postseason baseball is also here. Every swing can change the season. Step up to the plate and take your swing on Hard Rock Bet today. New customers can place a $5 bet, and if that hits, you not only get the winnings, but you also get 150 in bonus bets. There are new promos every week, every day. Profit boosts for postseason baseball parlays as well. If you're listening to this later on, open up the Hard Rock Bet and check out what they've got on any game of the day all week long. Check out Hard Rock Bet, the sportsbook app, and make your first deposit today. All right, let's talk survivor pools here and what could be an option. Now, like I said before last week, and we'll kind of say it again, what you guys have available to you may be different than what we are going to talk about. So we're just giving out ideas for games that you could use if that team is available to you. But once you use a team, obviously you can't go ahead and do that. We hope for no ties this week, Pat. No ties, because if you're playing in the Circa Survivor, you're out on both sides with the Cowboys and the Packers. But who do you like in Survivor this week?
I mean, I think the obvious pick, if you've got them available, although, some people will never take a road team, but man, like, is there any chance the Bengals could beat the Detroit Lions?
Absolutely none.
It just doesn't seem like that. So, like, I don't know if I'm going to go that route, Matt. I think I'm going to, and this one terrifies me because I do not believe very much in the Cardinals offense. But I very much don't believe in the Titans or anything they're doing on offense or defense, and think they're probably the worst team in football. And I am inclined to take the Cardinals against the Titans this week and not burn a major team. And like those major teams becoming a little more precious, because I think the Packers have shown maybe they're not as their operation isn't as airtight as we had hoped after 2 weeks. And the Ravens, we thought were going to be one of the powerhouses, and they are not. So the Lions are one of the few bankable powerhouse teams. I'm not sure I want to burn them just yet. I think I'm going to go with the Cardinals and try to skate by against the Titans. I also consider the Colts against the Raiders, but I don't know. I don't think the Raiders are that bad a team. And maybe this is a letdown spot for the Colts after their, high profile game against the Rams, which they probably should have won, Matt, if A.D. Mitchell doesn't have that horrible fumble. And I think A.D. Mitchell also got a holding call on a long Jonathan Taylor touchdown run that was negated. Tough game for him, but like, I don't know. I worry a little bit about the Colts in that spot against the Raiders. So yeah, the Cardinals are my play.
I like it. It's a teaser special for me as well. I mean, I think you just pull that down from 8 to 2 and you tease the Cardinals. If you don't want to take them in Survivor, it has to be on your card. The Titans changed up offensive play calling last week, and it gave them let's check. No points. So, yeah, great job, Brian Callahan. Way to go. And I had to give up the play calling. I'm not doing anything wrong, but I'm going to give up the play calling because, I need to be a full coach on that. Yeah, you scored 0 points against the Texans. So, yeah, 100% fading the Titans the rest of the way is not a bad idea. Cardinals are desperate. They need a win. They're at home. It's a tough environment to go play out there in the desert, in the big toaster, as it used to be called. I'm with you on that. Equally, the Bengals are a complete disaster. They are now 8-24 with Zach Taylor as the head coach without Joe Burrow. And I have staked my own gambling reputation on that. Brian Callahan has no clue what he's doing, and Zach Taylor without Joe Burrow has no clue what he's doing. You saw players fighting on the sidelines on Monday night. You saw Jamar Chase being extremely frustrated. Look, it's not Jake Browning's fault. The offensive line is horrible, and they've invested all this money in John Madden-esque types of video game players. When you pay your quarterback and you pay 2 wide receivers and you play a defensive end, you don't have any money left. And then the star quarterback goes down. And so the 2 star wideouts can't get the football the way that they want to get the football, because that was your whole triangle for offense. They're in trouble. Like, they're in big trouble. And they may be down in that Browns, Titans, Saints conversation in terms of the worst teams in the NFL. So I fade the Bengals, fade them the rest of the year. The Lions aren't losing. to the Bengals. They may not cover 10, but Pat, they're not losing. They're not losing. The Lions aren't losing to the Bengals in my mind.
It's hard to imagine. It is really hard to imagine.
Unless there's major injuries, right? Unless like we see a big injury to Jared Goff, or we see something that really like derails their entire team. If they're healthy and playing up to their capability, okay, maybe they don't cover, but the Lions win. So if you have the Lions available to you,
I mean,
I think it's a good play.
Yeah, if Jared Goff was out, what would the spread be? I feel like the Lions would still be a road favorite.
7, 6.5. Yeah, somewhere in that range. I mean, the Bengals have shown no
Either
sign
side
of
of the
fight.
ball. No.
Yeah, either side of the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, the Broncos, that was one of the most, I think I saw the stat. The Broncos, that was the 4th largest discrepancy in yards gained versus yards given up in the history of the Broncos franchise on Monday night.
Wow.
Like it was a complete and utter mismatch. And I thought Bo Nix didn't play very well. I thought Bo Nix was okay, but I thought that game could have been a lot more lopsided if Bo Nix had played better at the quarterback spot for the Broncos. So, I mean, J.K. Dobbins ran all over him. I think you got to look at both running backs. Gibbs, anytime touchdown, like just go and load up if you're looking for anytime touchdowns and yards over for running backs with that Lions offensive line dominating. They're going to road grade the Bengals. That's going to be ugly. Guys, want to track all your wagers in one place? Check out the BettingPros pick tracker. It syncs up with your sports books to tally which picks hit and which picks miss. Plus, it gives you a live look at what the public is doing so you can use real-time tracking to determine which plays to make and which plays to fade. Track your picks today with the BettingPros pick tracker at bettingpros.com/tracking or on the BettingPros app. All right, as we wrap here, what are plays that you would make right now? I think we've kind of covered a lot of them, but Pat, what would you fire on today here on Tuesday as we tape?
The one I really want to lock in before this number moves, Matt, is Commanders Chargers under 47.5. And I worry that maybe people are going to realize how compromised the Chargers are now without Joe Alt. He was carted off last week, so not expected to play this week. They had already lost their other starting offensive tackle, Rashawn Slater. So down both starting offensive tackles, like it's gotta hurt the outlook for Justin Herbert. And he was under some pretty heavy duress in that loss to the Giants in week 4. So as much splashy firepower as the Chargers have with Herbert playing so well, that wide receiver trio of Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen, and Ladd McConkey, and Omarion Hampton running really well, like the offensive line is a problem now. No question about that. Jaden Daniels expected back from a knee injury, but we'll see how that affects his mobility. I don't know whether he gets Terry McLaurin back from his quad injury this week. And the Chargers defense is tough. We've seen that. Like, this is absolutely a top 10 defense. I think they rank 6th in DVOA. This just doesn't feel like a shootout to me, Matt, and we're getting a pretty big number on it. So I feel like the under is a pretty good percentage play here. And I want to grab it now before this number, before we lose a point of value as the week goes on.
I concur, but I would go to the side as well. I think the Chargers bounce back and win this game. You're absolutely right about the offensive line being a question, but at home, the wins over the Chiefs and the Broncos for the Chargers, I just think the Commanders, I didn't like them coming into this season. I don't like them now. And I mean, even if Daniels comes back, I still would go ahead and take the Chargers, and you probably get a better number if Jaden Daniels does wind up playing. But it's Marcus Mariota at the moment, and the number is 2.5. So 2.5 or 3 on the Chargers. I think you got to take the Chargers before it goes over. I think if it is going to be Mariota for sure, this number is going to be 3.5 or higher. So I would 100% jump on this now. And I think even with the offensive line, look, they should have won the game against the Giants. I mean, there's 2 games I'm going to be furious about for the rest of the year. The Chargers lost to the Giants and the Packers lost to the Browns. I mean, these are games that just, right now in the NFL, if you are laying points on the road, you are getting destroyed. Okay. Just FYI, home teams are dominating right now in the NFL. Road teams are having a hard time winning, let alone covering. They're having a hard time winning games straight up right now. So I would be careful about Washington. Any road team, I would be a little careful about laying big numbers like the Lions laying 10, for instance. Be careful on those games just because what we've seen from a trend perspective in the NFL. But the other game I'd say I think you have to take it before it goes to 6 or higher is we talked about it at the open. I just think the Niners are so banged up, and I think the Rams are licking their chops. The NFC West has been weird like this, right? I mean, like the Cardinals, they can't beat the Seahawks to save their life. The Niners have a hard time beating the Rams. I think the Rams wind up getting a W and covering that 5.5, 6-point spread here. I would lock that in coming up right now if you guys have a chance to do so. Pat, in closing, any final thoughts as we head towards week 5?
That's it. Keep an eye out for injury news. That can always affect things, but feeling pretty good about the wagers we talked about today, Matt.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like the card this week. I didn't love the card last week. I do like the card this week. And remember, guys, we are into the first week of buys. Okay. This is a shorter schedule than usual. Bunch of teams in week 5, which feels really early to take bye weeks, but a bunch of teams are off on buys. So if you have fantasy lineups and whatnot, make sure you are checking those because you may have players who are not playing this week. You got to go ahead and sit them on the bench. He's Pat Fitzmaurice. I am Matt Perrault. We'll talk to you next week for another episode, week 6 of the NFL next week as we get into it here for Betting Pros.